van Vroonhoven, please come to the stage. Merel is the chairman of the executive head of the Netherlands Authority of the Financial Markets, as we know it in the Netherlands, the AFM, since April 2014. Please take the stage.
Thank you very much. So, let me first give a compliment to all of you, because I can understand that by listening to all these stories the whole day, it feels like, whoa, another story. And then a story from a financial regulator. That is not that exciting. And since I just learned a lot that I need to gesture, tell anecdotes, I thought to myself, my gosh, I'm in the end of the day, I'm from a financial regulator. Help, can I go home? But I'm going to try it, and let me know afterwards whether you think I succeeded or not. I'm going to tell a story today. First of all, I need to push this. Well, I was just told that green buttons are very easy to... No. Manon, I cannot do anything without you. Yeah? Oh, here we are. So, this is also the nightmare if you have prepared everything and you think, my God. But I'm going to read a quote today, and that is the quote of Raymond Gregorius. And the quote is, "The day that ended with everything different in the life of Raymond Gregorius began just like any other countless days." This is the first sentence of my favorite book, The Night Train to Lisbon. And the book is about a teacher in classical languages, who lives in Switzerland and who's teaching the same already for years and years. He wears the same clothes and he walks to the school where he works already for years and years at the same, every day, the same route. And one day he decides to suddenly leave everything behind and take the night train to Lisbon. And the reason he's doing that is because he suddenly realizes that he only has one life. And he's going to go in search for himself and searching for the fundamental questions in life. And it's my favorite book. So last summer, I decided to take the night train to Lisbon myself, together with my two sons, Kik, who's 11, and Job, who's 13 years old. And in a way, it was not that sudden as in the example of Raymond Gregorius, and it was not that existential. But in a way, the intention was the same: to meet new people, to meet new cultures, and to think about, where do I stand for? What drives me? To put it in your words, Dorothy, what is my purpose? And so I took the train. And in the book, the journey of Gregorius is split in 4 parts: the departure, the meeting, the experiment, and the return. And I'm going to take you on my journey on the same way. So let's start with the departure. The question I asked myself when we boarded in the train was, what do I stand for as a person, a mother of 2 children? I'm a divorced mother, so I'm traveling with my 2 sons on my own. And as a leader, as the chair of the AFM. Because leadership is also a journey. And my starting point for my leadership is my personal mission statement. My personal mission statement is about making connection to people. And making connection to myself, because I think without connection, this world is not going to be a nice place. And many problems in the world are due to the fact of a lack of connection. So it means connecting to me, connecting to my family, my sons, my employees, and to society. But you cannot have any connection without autonomy. If there's no autonomy, and you connect too closely, you start to lose your own values, your own identity, yourself. So it should go hand in hand. And if there's too much autonomy, there's arrogance, not listening anymore. And there's going to be loneliness in the extreme and conflict. So the balance between autonomy and connection is, in my opinion, what leadership is all about. And I think many organizations and many leaders have a lot of difficulty in striking the right balance. And if you look, for example, at voluntary organization, somehow it seems that connection and autonomy are sort of in a natural equilibrium. And that is what has been very interesting, I think, to further think about. Why is it that if people work in voluntary organizations, that somehow this difficulty to strike the balance between your own autonomy and connection seems to be so easy? The second part is the meeting, because you never travel alone. By the way, these are my two sons in the night train to Lisbon. They're here still very happy. To be honest, after so many hours and a lot of delays, they said to me, well, Mom, it's that this is your favorite book, but next time, can we just have an hotel? But the point is, you never travel alone, and that is what Gregorius also noticed when he was on his travel to Lisbon. It's about meeting new people, it's about encounters, and you learn the most about yourself by having this connection with people. And I think probably it's the same for you, at least it's for me. I do a lot of traveling. My favorite way of traveling, by the way, is by train. Probably because I worked for the Dutch Railways for 5 years. But I travel a lot by train to different countries. I've been to Iran, for example, last year. I've been to Uzbekistan, to Syria. And why is it so exciting? It's because you meet new people from different countries and you learn a lot about yourself. But the most important thing when you meet new people and about connection is to be able to put yourself in the shoes of someone else. And it starts at home, because I learn a lot also from my own family. My eldest son is Job. This is the one who's underneath. And he has autism. And people with autism think really differently, look at the world differently. And to give you an example, as a mother, I notice that every day in my life. And one of the anecdotes, yes, I'm having another one, I would like to share with you is that my son, when someone falls over at the street, he always starts to laugh. And in the beginning, I got very angry of it and ashamed, and I told him, you shouldn't laugh. If someone is falling, he might be hurt, and if you laugh, that's very inappropriate. And he looked at me and he didn't understand. And I asked him, but why are you doing this? Well, you can understand being angry as a mother. And he said, but Mom, it looks so funny. And actually he's right. Laurel Hardy, they were even famous from it. So Job really teaches me to look at things in a new way. And when I was asked 3 years ago by the government to chair a program to increase the recognition and the participation of people with autism in the Netherlands, I thought that is what I want to do. My aim is to teach people to look at people with autism, but to any people in a different way. So I said yes. I got a group of people, and we said, what are we going to do? Let's write another report, which just ends somewhere in, maybe is being discussed in the parliament, and then afterward just somewhere in the closet. No, we're not going to do that. So what we said is we want to make a difference. We want to build an inclusive world, a Netherlands where people feel that they can be themselves, whether they have autism or not, whether they look different or not, where you're valued because of who you are, Not because what you can't do, but because what you bring. So we said, what we're going to do, we're going to start a movement. Well, that is easier said than done, because a movement means someone needs to follow you. You cannot say, by the way, today I'm a movement. So we thought, what are we going to do? We're going to leverage, and that's a very corporate world and a very MBA kind of world, but we're going to leverage the strength of people with and without autism in the Netherlands who are just every day showing right examples how you include people with autism in society. And the problem is, many people think people with autism are like Rain Man. But there are as many different people with autism as people without. And what you see is that the difference is that people with autism normally have difficulty in communicating, understanding social encounters, and therefore, in many cases, they're very smart, but they just fall out of the system, whether it's in school, and especially when there's times of change, when they go from school to university, for example, or from university to work. And then something goes wrong. So we thought, let's look at all the good examples in the Netherlands which work, and let's make them grow. But let's not do that by putting together a group of people, of professors, of people who think they know what it is to have autism, but don't have autism themselves. So what we did was we started a group from within autism. And it means that in my working group and in my program, there are as many people with autism as without. And we started a movement also through social media to say to everyone with good ideas, just hop on. And at this moment in time, we got every year the question, please go on and continue. And in many different places in the Netherlands, in the municipalities, but also at schools, we're doing pilots just by taking good examples from one part of the Netherlands to the others. Well, sounds good, huh? It's not easy, though. Because what you see is that working with people with autism, you learn something about yourself. And the things you learn is, what I learned actually is, that I tend to view at things in a way like I tend to do. And sometimes I also think that everyone thinks like me. And to give you an example, I gave a presentation once for a group of people with autism about work and getting into work. We organized that, and I was standing in the same time as here. I was also I had the role of Twan, just making people from one presentation to the other, making them comfortable. And there were two people in the audience without autism. They were from the organization, and they said, "Merel, wonderful. Can you do this another time? Because it was wonderful." So I thought, well, good. Made me feel good. And then there was this feedback round. Everyone had to fill in the feedbacks. And what came out of it is that the whole audience said irrelevant information. She was hurrying up too much because there was a great presentation which was a little bit lengthy, and I said, well, time's up. Can you please next time have another person doing that? Well, and then I thought, my gosh. Mother of a child with autism, working with a lot of people with autism, I didn't think about my audience when I started. So it's easier said than done to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So, what does it tell me? Because I want to quote one other person who made a movie, that's Mark Smith. He made a movie about his best friend Matthijs, who has autism. And in this movie, he tells that the best way to deal with his best friend is to give very clear boundaries. But within these boundaries, give a lot of flexibility and space. Show your vulnerability and a personal touch, and stay away from rigid protocols. And the interesting thing is that not a wonderful description of good leadership? Is that not what people will want to have? Normal employees, they want to have their own defined space. They want to have flexibility, and they want to have a leader who's human, who's not pretending that he knows all or she knows all. And they want you to stay away from rigid protocols. So in a way, what I learned from working with people in voluntary organizations and with autism is that good leadership practice is in a way the same for them as for many of us. There are also differences. And like I said already, there are as many people without autism as autism who are different. So the big thing is, and I think it was in the earlier speeches already, is look at the person. Put yourself in the shoes and look at the talent someone has. Because people with autism, maybe they are not that good in planning, but they are very meticulous. They're often very intelligent. They blossom in R&D and in IT. So if you give them the good support, they can be a very valuable employee in times of change where you need a lot of innovation. So what do I do with this in the Authority for Financial Markets? Because you might think, okay, nice story, she likes to do voluntary jobs. What's the point? Well, let me take you to the third part, and that's the experiment. These are my two sons, and like you see, is for the one who knows everything about football, is one of the shirts is Real Madrid, and the other one is Barcelona. And the other one, that's my eldest, Job. He has a Dutch, the orange shirt. And they're looking actually at the game of Bilbao against Barcelona this summer. And for the real football lovers, Barcelona actually lost dramatically, which was of course very sad, but I thought this is quite an experiment. To be in Spain, sit in your Real Madrid shirt next to someone who's very sad, who's going to be very sad, a Spanish boy, because his favorite football club is losing. So what do I do at the AFM with the experiment? A lot of what I learn in the voluntary organization I lead, I use in the AFM. And let me explain that a little bit. Because we, as a regulator, we need to understand what's going on in the financial markets. So we need to put ourselves in the position of Dorothee and all her colleagues. On the other hand, we need to stay autonomous. Because if we empathize too much with the banks, well, I don't think that's good for a regulator. It's going to be very difficult to be tough in the moment when it's needed. And that means that I need to develop myself as a regulator in a way that I'm able to both be very autonomous and on the other hand also be very tough. And I need to empathize. So what do? Is I got a lot of people from the outside in. Because the biggest risk for a regulator is to become an ivory tower. Because I can tell you, it's really different on the other side. I worked in financial services for 16 years. The same people I meet just before I start to become a regulator, after that, completely different relationship. And it also has to do because I thought I'm not a different person, but I have a different role. So people don't tell you everything anymore if you're a regulator. Because they think, well, you never know what's going to happen if I tell them that this and this is not really in a good situation. So how, as a regulator, do I earn the trust? And do I really get the candid feedback? It can only be done by really asking a lot of feedback. So what I organized within the AFM was a stakeholder arena. And so we had the whole management of our organization, and in the middle, we invited very critical market participants, consumer organizations, and under the facilitation of a facilitator, they were asked to gossip about us for 2 hours. And we as management, we were not allowed to say anything. The only thing what we could do was listen. And in the beginning, people said, they're never going to be candidates because of this. But you know, the good thing is, if other people are quiet, and if you're talking together, you just forget that you are in the arena and your regulator is around you. So they gave us really candid feedback. And that was very important for my people, because suddenly they heard, well, you listen. Sometimes they said, well, they don't have enough knowledge to understand our business. The way of communication is very, very arrogant, and so on and so on. They also gave us positive feedback, but also very candid negative feedback. And that was more powerful than any other way of thinking about what you're doing good or not. I can tell my people this, but then they think, wow, that's Merel. But if your stakeholders are giving you that candid feedback, it's really powerful. So let me go, because it's time for the return. Because also Gregorius made his way back. And I did too. And Gregorius came back from Lisbon a little bit different than he was before. He learned a lot. His life has changed on many aspects. And I thought, so what happened to me when I returned after 3 weeks in the train with my 2 sons? I had thought a lot about this autonomy versus connection. And I thought about my own people. I thought one of the things for us as a regulator is important. It is important to strike the right balance. And to give you an example, in my organization, the average age is in the 20s, 30s, and a little bit in the 40s. So we got a really young organization. Very smart and clever people. But people who need to, who are regulating, often very experienced people, who had many years of experience, senior leaders, CEOs from corporate listed companies, and then there is this 25-year-old supervisor. Can you imagine what it means for both sides? And how do I teach my people to strike the right balance, to not be insecure and then become arrogant? How do I teach them resilience? And can you teach someone resilience? Or is that just a life experience? So I want to end. The ending of the book is open, of course. What could you otherwise believe? I want to say something to you, to the students here in the audience. You are at the beginning of your journey. And what I wish you, just a little piece of advice, is to become human. You're trained in business schools, at universities for a profession. But instead of the Greek days, 2 centuries ago, people were trained to become human. And I think that's important, to have experience. So instead of hopping immediately in a new job and working 24 hours as an investment banker, or being fully soaked up as in one of the corporate companies, do something different as well. Draw your inspiration from voluntary work. And in your next career move, just switch careers, like Dorothee did. A zigzag career is probably the best career there is, because it makes you become more experienced and more human. Go on a trip, visit countries, and come back more enriched than you left. I want to end up with the words, these are the last sentences, in Dutch and in English. As the door closed behind him, it began to rain. Thank you very much.